I sat at the bar, my whiskey untouched, swirling slowly as I stared at the entrance, feeling the tension building inside me. My heart raced, but not from fear. This was anticipation. Tonight was the night. Tonight everything would change. The truth would be out and everyone would see what I had known all along. A year ago, if anyone had told me that my entire life could collapse in a single night, I would have laughed. I had it all: an amazing girlfriend, a tight-knit group of friends, and a career that was slowly but surely getting better. Emily and I had been together for 3 years. We had plans, we had dreams, and I thought we had an unbreakable bond. My friends always said we were the perfect couple. She was charismatic, confident, and always the center of attention, while I was more reserved, the type who preferred to observe rather than dominate. Maybe that's why they liked her more than me. It all fell apart at a house party, one of those gatherings where everyone brought cheap beer and pretended their lives were still on track. Emily had been acting strangely all night, her attention elsewhere, and I caught her exchanging whispered conversations with her friend, Lisa, giving each other looks that made my stomach twist. I couldn't take it anymore, so I pulled her aside. She had that look in her eyes, like she'd been waiting for this moment. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "I've been seeing someone else." I froze. My mind went blank. But then she tilted her head, looking at me like I was something pathetic. "I need a real man. Someone ambitious. Not someone who's just coasting." I couldn't immediately react. It was as if my brain refused to process her words. But then she smirked, the same smirk she always gave when she thought she was in control. It was like she had won, and my pain was nothing more than an afterthought. I looked around, hoping for some support, but all I saw were hesitant glances and awkward shuffles. No one stood up for me. Not even my friends. Lisa, ever the loyal one, spoke up. "I mean, she's got a point, man," she said. A few others chuckled. Some nodded. It felt like the whole world had tilted. I had become the villain for being the one betrayed. I left that night without a word, not because I was weak, but because I needed time. Time to process it. Time to figure out what I would do next. Betrayal does something to a man. It doesn't just break him, it changes him. That night, as I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, something inside me shifted. They had laughed at me, mocked me, and thought they had won. They had no idea what they had underestimated. I began to observe, listen, and collect every piece of information I could find about Emily's so-called real man. His name was Greg. It was predictable, really. He was the cocky, self-absorbed type who thought he could have anything he wanted. I had spent years in the finance world, where the treatment of women was often reduced to a game, something to be won and displayed. My friends weren't merely bystanders. They had watched everything unfold and said nothing. I was determined not to let their silence define me. I wasn't going to be the one left to play the role of the victim in their narrative. The first move was discreet. Emily and Greg, the so-called perfect couple, thrived on their image. She had posted a picture of them dining at a high-end restaurant, captioned with something nauseating like, "A real man knows how to treat a woman." I made sure her boss saw that post. Emily had always kept our relationship on the down low at work, playing it strategically to leave room for opportunities. But an affair? That was a different story, especially when it turned out that Greg was the son of one of her company's biggest clients. Within a week, whispers started circulating. In 2 weeks, Emily found herself in a meeting about her professional conduct. That was my first step, planting the seed. Step 2 was letting it grow. The next part was going to need precision. My old friend group, the ones who had sided with Emily, prided themselves on their image. They loved their reputation, looking successful and well-connected. So, I planned a night out at the same bar where we had all gathered before. I came in with confidence, acknowledging a few people as I made my way to a seat. They expected me to be broken, humiliated, but I wasn't. Emily showed up with Greg draped over her arm, probably expecting to gloat. She leaned in, ready to deliver some condescending remark, but I spoke first. "You should check your phone," I said nonchalantly, sipping my drink. She frowned and reached for her phone. Then Greg's buzzed. Then Lisa's. One by one, they all looked down, their faces shifting from curiosity to horror. I had sent them everything, every text, every photo, every little lie Emily had told me over the years. Greg, it turned out, thought he was the only one. But he wasn't. "You said I was the only one," he said to Emily, his voice dangerously low. She paled, but he was already stepping away from her. "You're a joke." The others weren't laughing anymore. They looked at her with the same judgment they had once reserved for me. Emily tried to salvage the situation, accusing me, "You planned this." I simply smiled. "You always said I lacked ambition." She stormed out, followed by Lisa, though Lisa couldn't even meet my eyes. The rest of the group just sat there, stunned. My so-called friends realized that night they had chosen the wrong side. I won't say it was easy. Betrayal doesn't just disappear. But something shifted in me that night. I learned that justice isn't always about being the loudest or the most obvious. Sometimes it's about being patient, observing, and making your move when it counts. A few months later, I landed a better-paying job, one that pushed me forward instead of letting me coast. As for Emily, her reputation took a hit in her industry. People began to question her trustworthiness at work, just as they had with me in our relationship. Last I heard, she was struggling trying to pick up the pieces, but that wasn't my concern anymore. Betrayal leaves a scar, but nothing stings as much as realizing the person you underestimated was always 5 steps ahead.